Dr. Amos Wilson told us, we have a school system that is based upon the psychology of white children and white people. If we are trying to educate our children in that system, they are bound to fail. The very structure of the educational system itself is based upon a white model, and therefore it has a built-in failure mechanism for Black children, one way or the other. Dr. Bobby Wright told us, in their relationship with the Black race, whites are psychopaths, and their behavior represents an underlying biologically transmitted proclivity with roots deep in their evolutionary history. The psychopath is an individual who is constantly in conflict with other persons or groups. He is unable to experience guilt, is completely selfish and callous, and has a total disregard for the rights of others. One of the best methods that can be used to measure the psychopathic traits of the white race is observing and analyzing their universal overt behaviors and attitudes towards Black people. Psychopaths simply ignore the concept of right and wrong. By ignoring this trait in the white race, the lack of ethical and moral development, Blacks have made and are still making a tragic mistake in basing the worldwide Black liberation movement on moral suasion. It is pathological for Black people to keep attempting to use moral suasion on a people who have no morality, where race is the variable.
Acclaimed author Dante King invites you to purchase his book, Diagnosing Whiteness and Anti-Blackness, by going to his website, www.danteking.com, or Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and any other major book retailer.
Toni Morrison told us that the people who practice racism are bereft, that there is something distorted about the psyche. It's a huge waste, and it's a corruption and a distortion. It's like a profound neuroses that nobody has examined for what it is. This quote is from Judge William Augustus Hall in a case that he presided over in 1855 concerning a 19-year-old black girl named Celia who was raped by her master, who she later murdered. Judge Hall told the jury, if Newsom was in the habit of having intercourse with the defendant, who was his slave, and went to her cabin on the night he was killed to have intercourse with her, or for any other purpose, and while he was standing in the floor talking to her, she struck him with a stick, which was a dangerous weapon, and knocked him down, and struck him again after he fell, and killed him by either blow, it is murder in the first degree. The Florida State Supreme Court in 1918 determined what has been said by some of our courts about an unchaste female being a comparatively rare exception is no doubt true where the population is composed largely of the Caucasian race. But we would blind ourselves to actual conditions if we adopted this rule where another race that is largely immoral constitutes an appreciable part of the population.
Acclaimed author Dante King invites you to purchase his book, Diagnosing Whiteness and Anti-Blackness, by going to his website, www.danteking.com, or Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and any other major book retailer.
The 1969 Casual Killing Act established, whereas the only law in force for the punishment of refractory servants resisting their master, mistress, or overseer cannot be inflicted upon Negroes, nor the obstinacy of many of them be suppressed by other than violent means, be it enacted and declared by this grand assembly, if any slave resist his master or other by his master's order correcting him, and by the extremity of the correction should chance to die, that his death shall not be accounted a felony, but the master or that other person appointed by the master to punish him be acquitted from molestation, since it cannot be presumed that premeditated malice, which alone makes murder a felony, should induce any man to destroy his own estate. A wise doctor once said, white supremacy is diagnosable in individuals, systems, and society as a whole. Any idea of someone who is fundamentally superior based on race, appearance, wealth, anything is delusional thinking. The Mississippi State Supreme Court determined in 1859 the crime of rape does not exist in this state between African slaves. Our laws recognize no marital status as between slaves. Their sexual intercourse is left to be regulated by their owners. The regulations of law as to the white race on the subject of sexual intercourse do not and cannot, for obvious reasons, apply to slaves. Their intercourse is promiscuous, and the violation of a female slave by a male slave would be a mere assault and battery.
Acclaimed author Dante King invites you to purchase his book, Diagnosing Whiteness and Anti-Blackness, by going to his website, www.danteking.com, or Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and any other major book retailer.
The book surprised you the most?
A whole book. The whole book. Because I thought that I knew a lot until I read that book and realized I didn't know anything. There was a lot to learn and a lot to still be discovered. I'm still processing it. I can see things now that I didn't see before. And it's all because of the book.
I love that. Jules?
So much of the book really opened my eyes to things. The Casual Killing Act, the legality of rape. And then one of the other parts was the housing covenants and the covenants that were allowed. And growing up in the Bay Area, St. Francis Wood, for instance, is a highly coveted place to want to live or want to strive to, right? I was a child and I'd passed through St. Francis Woods, and it was something that you feel could have been attainable. And then as you read Dante's book, you realize it's attainable for white people. It's not attainable for me. It's not attainable for you, not in the way that you think you would be able to attain certain places and spaces. You are written out of that legally.
Right. And Alicia?
What really stands out to me is the 1850 Fugitive Slave Act, which describes so much of how white people operate in terms of that act deputizing all white Americans to serve as white racial police against African Americans, whether they're freed or enslaved, and getting incentivized by bounties, by slave auctions to surveil and police and criminalize Black people, and how that persists today, the obsession with it.
The author of the book, some time to speak directly to the audience. Tell them what you know they need to hear and the takeaway from these 10 episodes that wonderfully, thoughtfully, and lovingly unpack the chapters of your work.
The last thing that I would like to leave all of you with is a call to action. Read the book, study the book with your friends and family. Take it one chapter at a time and highlight, read, reread the information contained in each of the chapters, as well as the reflection questions that are at the end of each chapter, because we have to understand we've normalized violence against African American people. We have lost all regard of our humanity towards African American people. This is a call to action to regain a sense of your own humanity in regards to how you come to knowing, understanding, making meaning about who you are in relationship to Black people, and how have you been tainted and corrupted by white rulership and white racial control. This is a lifetime journey for me. I know that I will be in recovery from white supremacy and anti-Blackness throughout my entire life. And so I'm calling us to be greater people, greater advocates for each other, greater in our understanding. So thank you so much for being a part of this experience. I hope it serves you well. I hope it serves your family well. I hope you can go out and be recommitted to supporting, uplifting, believing Black people. Thank you.
Free. We're not on plantations. We're not indentured servants.
Well, that's
We're not
unfortunate.
slaves.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. We are
That's
free.
such an unfortunate mindset. Again, it's rooted in low standards too, because your starting point, as it pertains to Black people and freedom, is one where people are bound, shackled in chains, being subjected to rape and pedophilia, and stuck on agricultural plantations. And so we don't necessarily consider, for example, the public health institution or, my job at Google or my job as an attorney at this law firm. We don't consider these corporation plantations where white people have benefited for centuries, and yet we still are subjects of servitude in a system that's based on feudalism. So therefore we have developed false impressions, I guess I would say, and low standards and low expectations around how we define and deal with freedom.
You to just really chime in from your perspective. How has this truly shifted your view of America?
I appreciate Dante's definition of a racial terrorist, and that includes white people who are indifferent to the torture of Black people, and just thinking about how all white people are implicated, and thinking about the white mobs and the lynchings and the massacres of hundreds of innocent Black people, whether it's for voting rights or for organizing for farm action, whether it's for any crime that was arbitrarily made up by white people just to torture Black people, and how entire white communities showed up to lynchings, to massacres, as a social activity, as a religious activity, showing up in Sunday church clothes, children smiling at cameras while Black bodies hang from trees burning. I believe that white people have traded in our morality and humanity for white power.